What's up, everybody? This is Fred Ricciani of the Sports Courier. I am joined by a very special guest. He is a member of Aces and Eights. He's had a wild roller coaster ride the last 2 years with TNA Impact Wrestling. He is TNA superstar Garett Bischoff. Garrett, thanks so much for joining us today, man. How you doing?
What's up, guys? I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing all right, minus having no voice. But don't worry, that's not the Aces and Eights' fault. I'm not blaming you guys, so please don't attack me.
We'll see how this goes at the end of it.
Now, Garrett, I was in attendance at Bound for Glory 2011 when you made your debut as a main character in TNA. Now, before that, you were a referee, and it was revealed on that pay-per-view you were actually Garett Bischoff's son. And a lot of people. Little technical difficulties there. And a lot of people, didn't know that. It came as quite of a shock. Many people thought that you would screw over Sting and allow Hulk Hogan and Immortal to prevail. Instead, you went against your dad, and ever since then, you've pretty much been a main character on Impact Wrestling, of course. You feuded with your dad leading up to Lockdown 2012, and then you joined the dark side and became a member of Aces and Eights. What's this ride been like for you the last couple years?
I'll tell you what, it's been a hell of a one, that's for sure. It's had its ups, it's had its downs. And it's definitely not anywhere close to being over. Starting out, like you said, as a referee, as a way for me to get in and learn from a different point of view, so to speak. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot of being in that role. That night, like you mentioned, I had a little change of plan. I was no longer willing to go the route that the old man wanted me to go. So I made a judgment call right then and there in the ring. That's when, everybody knows what happens. The rest is history. I spent the next year and a half, 2 years, trying to do what I thought was right, to do it my way, and make a name and let everybody know that I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere, no matter what the people's opinions are. I think I'm there just because I'm Garett Bischoff's son. I'm doing this because I love it. It's what I want to do. However, I didn't like the way that was going after a while. I was approached by the Prez, by Bully Ray. We laid out a little game plan. I liked what he was telling me. I liked it. Welcome to the dark side.
Now, Aces and Eights, though, they've been having some problems lately. Of course, you guys excommunicated Ken Anderson, who may or may not return. You Bully Ray pile drive Wes Briscoe, and you guys had to reluctantly take away his cut. What's the status of Aces and Eights? Are you guys just kind of having a rough patch right now? What's the deal here?
Well, listen, I said this on Twitter a couple of days ago. All families have their issues. We're having ours right now, but I can't talk too much about our club business because that's exactly what it is. It's club business, but I can say that the Aces and Eights aren't going anywhere. We're here to stay. We have our problems, but we'll work them out. We'll figure them out. We don't always agree with each other. Wes Briscoe's my brother, and he always will be. You can tell us, we didn't want to do that, but unfortunately, decisions have to be made, and it's nothing personal. It's just good business.
Of course. Now, before you started wrestling for TNA, did you have any prior experience on the independent level?
I did. I started my wrestling out in California, actually, at Rakishi School with the Black Pearl and Gangrel. Those are the guys who actually got me started in it. I did some independent stuff with them out there. After training and working with them, I moved down to Tampa, Florida, and started working with the Nasty Boy Brian Knobs at Nastyville School Pro Wrestling. From there, I started working on indies around the Tampa area, and then came TNA.
Now, your father's history in wrestling is obviously well documented. So when you decided to become a wrestler and start going headfirst into the industry in your mid-late 20s, was there ever a desire prior to that as a teenager when he was president of WCW to get in the ring? Or did you kind of just say, I don't know, maybe it won't happen, and when your dad got hooked up with TNA, you said, you know what, might as well give this a go, better late than never?
No, not at all. I've wanted to do this since before my teenage years, ever since I was a kid. It's always been a dream of mine. It's always been something I wanted to do. I never forgot about it. I never stopped wanting it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of timing issues. Age, at the time of WCW, I wasn't old enough to really, I wasn't even 18 years old yet. I couldn't even get in the ring if I wanted to. Nobody was going to sign away. The timing wasn't there. The age wasn't there. But I never stopped wanting it. And finally, when I did get the opportunity and did get the chance, I was in my early 20s, but I took it, take it and run with it.
So contrary to popular belief, you've been a fan forever and have busted your butt to get on TV.
Absolutely, I have, and everybody. People have their opinions, and everybody's entitled to them. But I've never. There's been this way since I was as long as I can remember, all the way back to when my dad was in AWA. For good's sakes, I mean, it was, I can remember being 4 years old and running around his office and the AWA offices, and picking at everybody I could pick at, watching everything I could watch in the control room, watching guys edit shows, and I mean everything from the ground up. I love it all. There's more to wrestling than just physically wrestling. I love every aspect of it, and I have been learning and will continue to learn every angle and every aspect of the business that I can.
You must have been like a kid in a candy store when you were backstage during your dad's AWA and WCW days. Just what was that, especially WCW with the Monday Night Wars and the height of pro wrestling? I mean, what was that like backstage, seeing guys like the NWO, seeing Goldberg, seeing your dad in action, seeing everybody, everything clicking on all cylinders? I mean, that must have been just overwhelmingly amazing for you.
It was like having the opportunity to go see a fantasy world that was larger than life. I mean, it's almost like it wasn't real. I loved it. Like I said, and every bit of it. Getting there and watching the guys put up all the lights and set up how they set up everything, and everything, all of it. So there's a lot. There's so much that goes into something like this, and as a kid, it was just larger. It still is. I still am a big kid. I'm 30 years old, and I still get excited. I still love just watching the way it all comes together. But back then, like when you are a kid, things like that are so it's like seeing Superman for real life. It's such a larger than life situation. It's hard to explain, but it's awesome.
Definitely sounds awesome. Now, when you became a full-timer for TNA, did you sense any hostility in the locker room, or were a majority of the guys pretty supportive?
No, everybody has been supportive since day one. There's obviously, I think, probably some uncertainties, maybe some pre-notions of how I might, what my attitude might be, but never any hostilities, never anything but support. There's a lot of guys that, right off the bat, they're been very cool, very supportive. A lot of these guys have been around for a long time. They know I'm there to learn. There's no ego, there's no attitude. It's just we're family. There's some guys that we're tight with. Just from the get-go, everything's very cool.
Very cool. Now, has there been anybody or any veterans, in particular, that have taken you under their wing?
I really can't say just one. That kind of goes back to what I was just saying. It's everybody. Anytime there's ever been anything I've ever needed, or anything I've ever asked, or haven't asked but needed to be told, guys have no problem pulling somebody aside and going, "Hey, this is try it like this, or we should do this, or let's work that." Everything's been very cool. Bully Ray, I love the bully talk. He's got such a great mind. My brother Devon is a guy that we kind of took me under, and we tagged for a few times. Kind of had a little thing going there for a while. Love learning from guys like that. That's been around, had made very successful careers in this business.
Now, when you decided to pursue pro wrestling, was your family like, "Hey, easy, Garrett, you got a great physique, you got a good look, why not go into acting and modeling?" Or were they all pretty supportive of you going into a business that, well, it is also entertainment, it's pretty damn physical?
I guess a little bit of both. My family's, I've always had a very supportive family, and they've always supported me from day one. They may have tried to talk me out of a lot of things, but but they're still supportive on it. It did take a long time for me to, to really get their backing on this, just for like what you just said. It's very, there's a lot of taking things that go along with this too, especially coming into it, when you're the son of somebody who's been into it for a long, long time. We knew that there's going to be a lot of obstacles. I knew it was going to be a bigger uphill climb than it would be for a lot of people, just for the mere fact that I'd have to overcome all the Bischoff cloud, so to speak. But if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. I like a challenge. I'm always up for it.
And you're pursuing a new challenge right now. You started One Bad Cat Inc. You want to tell everybody about that?
One Bad Cat Incorporated. That's right. It's all started about 10 years ago. Me and my tattoo artist were coming up with a new tattoo for the inside of my arm. And long story short, that cat face, cat-headed, what you see on my main logo, that's what we came up with. Now, then it was just a tattoo. I tattooed Luke Ford. He's out in Arizona. Phenomenal artist. We came up with it, and we got done tatting it on there. He goes, "Dude, that thing's so sick, you should put it on a shirt." Yeah, sure, that'd be very cool, And then we went back to tattooing and drinking beers. It wasn't until a few years later where I said, "Wow, shit, I should put this on a shirt." It just kind of all started spooling up real fast, and got a design together and came up with the name and went to the ranks to get it trademarked, and started One Bad Cat last November. So it'll be a year now. Got my website up and going. It's, as of right now, it's just an apparel line: women's tanks, tees, baby clothes, men's t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats. But I have other plans in the future for this. We're going to build a brand. I see a One Bad Cat tattoo shop in my future. I see a One Bad Cat Ink Bar and Grill. So we'll go all the way with it.
Very cool, man. So you have a bit of that entrepreneurial spirit that your dad has.
Absolutely. I can definitely attribute that to him, all to him, and thank him for that. I grew up around it, listening to him and watching him and learning from him. And, there's so much more out there. I'll never stop wrestling if I don't have to, if I'm not forced to. But there's so much more out there that I can do and that I want to do. And my wheels are always turning. I'm always trying to think of the next thing. Or what else can I do? What else can I bring to the table? It's in my blood. It can't stop.
So is that something you stress to young wrestlers or any wrestlers really in the business right now that maybe just be thinking about the short term and not long term when, say, they end up hanging up the boots or, God forbid, have to retire early?
Absolutely. It's there's the one thing that's for sure about this business is nothing's for sure. It can be a 30-year run. It can be a 2-year run. Due to an accident or due to who knows what. There's a million factors that go into this, and what's here today not necessarily won't be there tomorrow for anybody. And I stress all the way: Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. It's better to have it going and then have the ball rolling now. That way, God forbid something does happen or it doesn't work out, you don't have to just sit back and go, now what am I going to do? And start, going back to the drawing board at 30 years old.
Well said, man. Definitely a great mentality to have. You want to take some viewer questions?
Sure.
All right. This one comes from Twitter at 6414C. He says, what has been Garrett's favorite moment in TNA?
My favorite moment in TNA. So far, my most exciting favorite moment in TNA would probably when I came over the top of that cage last year at Manchester, and I saw the look on old Kurt Angle's face when I pulled that mask off.
That was a pretty cool moment. What was that like in the UK? Those fans are something else.
It's incredible. I love going over there, and I can't wait to go again. I'm going at the end of January again. I can't wait. It's incredible over there.
Definitely. Ennis Topper asks, who's your dream opponent in TNA?
FP and TNA, or are you talking about all the way around?
Hell, we could do both.
All right, I would love to work with Bully Ray in TNA. If I had a dream opponent with us today or not, I would say if I could go back in time, I would love to work with Curt Hennig. Curt Hennig was one of my favorites. I love watching him. All-time favorites.
Yeah, he was spectacular. Anti-Tribute says, I've noticed ever since you joined Aces and Eights, your mic work has gotten a lot better. What do you attribute to that?
Time. It's just the more you do, repetition. The more you do it, the better you get. That's the more confidence you get. That's really all there is to it. It's just repetition.
All right, and Classic Dutton Eyes asks, is there anybody in particular that obviously you're trying to carve your own path, you're doing your own thing, but is there anybody, at least when you were starting out, that maybe you emulated, that you watched growing up? I'm guessing maybe that would be Curt Hennig?
Yeah, Curt Hennig would be one of them. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I always loved Ricky the Dragon, watching him. Steve Austin, his early years, just even as stunning Steve Austin. I loved the guys that had a different edge to them, very different character, but that were great workers in the ring.
What's the toughest adjustment you've had to make ever since becoming a full-time pro wrestler?
Probably adjusting, the family life, being on the road with, my wife, having to leave my wife every week or every other week for, or sometimes 2 or 3 weeks at a time. It's different. It's easy to say, it's easy to do. I can leave, no problem. But when you got a wife at home that's missing you, and it bouncing around hotel to hotel, town to town, city to city, that's probably the biggest adjustment.
All right, we got a couple lighthearted backstage questions here. Kieran Highland asks, who's the funniest guy backstage at TNA?
Eric Young. By far. I could sit there and listen to him and watch him all day. He cracks me up.
Yeah, he is quite funny. And another one here, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but it's a pretty funny question. What's the best rib you've seen happen backstage in TNA?
Yeah, we'll leave that one alone. It's some things I can't just let out.
Of course. Now, are you set to appear at Bound for Glory at all? Are you obviously going to be there in support of Bully Ray in spite of the family's issues, but are you thinking you might have a match, possibly be in action?
I don't know yet. I will be there. I don't know what we have up our sleeves for that yet. But we will be there. I will be there and be there with bells on.
All right, and somebody here asks who's your dream opponent between these guys. Wow, this is a pretty unique list. Garrett, who's your dream opponent of all these guys? Ricky Steamboat, Bret Hart, Benoit, Michaels, Perfect, or Rock?
Ooh. That's a tough one between Ricky and Mr. Perfect. That's a tough one there. I'd still have to go. I'd have to go with Mr. Perfect still.
Of course. All right, and we'll get to a couple more before I let you go. I know you gotta get going. Is Wes Briscoe going to be back so you guys could challenge for the TNA tag team titles?
Like I said, Briscoe's he's my brother. I know he's not gone. I don't know what what the title situation is, but I told him any day he's ready and the situation calls for it. He and I will make an attempt to go after those belts.
Now you said you have an entrepreneurial mind like your father. Does that include TV production like he does?
I am very interested in that realm of things. Honestly, my sister has more of him in that than I do. But yes, it does include not wrestling, but in the television in the television industry itself, reality TV, and I am interested in that. I have worked on some shows in the past, entry level learning the rounds. But to answer the question, yes, I do.
All right. Now, your dad, of course, he has a well-documented martial arts background. Are you an MMA fan at all, and do you think that there are similarities to MMA and pro wrestling?
I am an MMA fan. I wouldn't call myself a diehard. I do enjoy watching it. I myself have a martial arts background. I did about 12 years, 13 years of it growing up. I got my black belt from Ernest Miller, actually. I don't know if you remember him. Ernest the Cat Miller.
Oh, I remember him, the greatest, as he said.
Yep, he was my instructor for many years, along with a few others, and an awesome panel of guys that I worked with and got my black belt from. I personally wouldn't. Those guys are nuts. Catching me getting in a cage with any of those guys, but yes, I do. I do enjoy watching it.
Was it cool interacting with Tito and Rampage backstage? How were those guys?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How was it cool interacting with Tito and Rampage backstage?
Tito's a great guy. Obviously, we didn't. Rampage may be on the other side of things, so we weren't exactly hanging out and swapping stories. But Tito's a good guy, very nice guy. Look forward to seeing those guys again.
Definitely, and we will see him again November 2nd at the Bellator MMA pay-per-view, and perhaps, maybe after that on Impact Wrestling. Garrett, I want to thank you so much for the time, man. Before we go, I got to ask you one last question. What is next in the future for Garett Bischoff?
There's a lot in the future for Garett Bischoff. You have to stay tuned and just keep watching to find out. But I'm telling you this, I said it once before, and I'll say it again. I'm not going anywhere.
He said it, folks. He ain't going anywhere, and of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Garett Bischoff. Of course, you can check out his clothing line, his apparel line, soon to possibly, would you say it could be a grill, could be a tattoo parlor, could be a series of businesses, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot to come. OneBadCatInc.com.
Very cool, very cool. Garrett, thanks so much for the time, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.